I'm Dr. Prabha Ramakrishna, Senior Consultant. It's Dr. Chitra.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Chitra, Senior Consultant OBGYN, and welcome to all of you from the Sakra OBG team. And I think we are here to talk a little bit about the hot topic that all of you are aware of, the COVID-19 pandemic which is going on, and how to keep our pregnant women safe, because we all know that pregnant women do form a special group of people, and we are dealing with the mother as well as the unborn baby here.
Yeah, as all of us are aware, pregnancy itself is a time which is sort of special for the would-be mother and the entire family to say. And there's a lot of anxieties about that, especially if it is a first-time mom. And considering demographics of places like Bangalore here, a lot of people are from other states and staying as nuclear families here, hardly having any help. And I have quite a few of women who were seeing us and were planning to, in fact, go to their native places for deliveries so that they have help socially in terms of their families being around. But unfortunately, because of the prevailing situation, they don't have anybody from their family to help them out, either by coming in or they are unable to go to where they were supposed to go for deliveries. So that is adding to people's anxieties and as to how to go about looking after themselves and their families and the newborn which is supposed to come shortly in stressful situations like this.
I think the one thing that we can add on here is that it becomes very difficult for the woman because she is used to having a support system. And I think in countries like ours, where people have traditionally looked at childbirth as a positive family event, and they get together, you get the support of the in-laws, parents, your well-wishers, elders in the family. Missing out on all of that is definitely impacting our women. And we have had a few people who have had to come and deliver in the thick of the pandemic when things were still evolving, very unclear. It continues to be so, but then, and they had to do it on their own. That's only the husband and wife. And it has been, we are seeing a lot of people who come back with a lot of questions, which otherwise their family would have taken care of, helped and supported them. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to kind of offer help around the time when they need us, in terms of giving them extra help in terms of either medical attention or help to support them to cope with childbirth, what to expect, having an extended session with them as one-to-one, as to set their expectations, see what they can do, and things which possibly a family member should have done. We are trying to take out extra time to help them with those things. And not only that, our nursing team is also going an extra mile and helping to support the new mom to help bond with the baby better, help them with feeding, taking care of the baby, and the questions they might otherwise have gotten answers from their family. We are trying to kind of actively ask them if they needed any help from us in that sense, and provide whatever support we can.
So we are faced with the one common question as obstetricians is that we know we are supposed to come for a checkup, but in this situation we are scared. It's natural to be scared about the whole thing, especially because we are bombarded every day with so many social media updates about how many deaths are happening, how many people are infected, and so on. And naturally, the first question which a pregnant woman would get is, am I more prone to get infection because I am pregnant? Am I vulnerable because I am pregnant? Is my newborn going to get affected? So these are common questions which we face on a daily basis. And to give you some information about that, in those documentation, it's a new disease we are dealing with, and across the globe, there's nobody who can claim as being an expert in COVID in pregnancy. So this is something which is relatively new, and the only experience are from anecdotal incidents, like one example incidents which can happen, which have been reported from China, and one or two incidents from across the world. So we don't know how it is exactly, and yes, it's an evolving situation wherein, yes, there is a report of a newborn who was infected with COVID at the time of birth, so probably it has spread inside the womb itself. But by and large, most college of obstetrics and gynecology have given their guidelines. They say that it's mainly because of transmission after birth, while handling the baby, while breastfeeding baby, not again through breast milk, that's not documented, but because of respiratory contact, because of the close contact which the mother has while breastfeeding the baby. That apart, again, can the pregnant woman catch an infection of COVID just because she's pregnant? Pregnant women do categorize as they come into the group where they are called as being vulnerable, because a lot of immunity changes do happen in pregnancy to allow for the baby to be accepted as part of the woman's body. So there is some sort of immune suppression that happens in pregnancy. Having said that, there is again no evidence to say that yes, pregnant women can catch COVID, earlier than others, or their outcomes would be worse than others. There are no documented evidence like that to quote from. So women need not be scared about COVID unduly. But yes, they have to take suitable precautions, which I'm sure every time you make a phone call, you hear these ringtone which government of India has provided as to how you have to take care of yourself and how you have to, take care of hand hygiene, hand washing, social distancing. These are all very important, and this we might have, seeing them so many times and hearing the same things so many times. We might say, oh, again the same thing. But yes, it's very important, and especially so for people who are having young children at home, who are having elderly parents at home with them, and for pregnant women as such. You can
I think
add on to that.
what we know medically so far is this. As Dr. Prabha has already told you, it's an evolving situation. New evidence is coming up, and then things which we might discuss today might no longer be relevant after 1 week or 1 month. So, but so far, how things have worked out, and whatever limited data we have from China, UK, Spain, and Italy, seems to tell us that infection in pregnancy does not make the baby have a malformation or cause miscarriage or anything of that sort. And as she has already mentioned, it doesn't make a pregnant woman more sick than what a non-pregnant person might be. But however, there is one thing that we all have to understand is that as the baby grows more and more, and as the woman approaches her delivery date, there are a lot of changes that happen in her body, and especially the chest, the heart, and the lungs do take a lot of stress at this time in terms of carrying a baby and getting prepared for delivery. So any infection that happens at this time, I think, can have a far more serious impact than what it would be otherwise. So I think if somebody has an infection or an evidence of, it might be a simple upper respiratory tract infection, because there is no way to differentiate a common cold or a sore throat or anything from a COVID-19 infection, because at the end of the day, it is a part of the common respiratory virus family. So the testing is the only way by which we come to know. So what I mean to tell by the whole thing is, if you do experience any symptoms where you have a doubt, or you have been possibly in contact with a person who has traveled, or somebody who is possibly at more risk than you, it's important to seek help early, get yourself tested, go talk to your doctor, see what's happening, rather than wait and see what happens. So generally, seeking care earlier is better for the mom as well as for the baby, because early diagnosis helps to give the appropriate care and whatever is required at that point in time, rather than delaying it.
Coming to the other questions as to, is there a necessity to physically go to the doctor for a checkup, or is it okay not to come because we are scared to come to the hospital, we are scared to get tests done? ICMR has put in guidelines as to how many visits a pregnant woman has to physically come to a hospital or seek a doctor's consultation in her clinic. See, there's one mandatory visit which is around the 12 weeks, which is also along with the very important first trimester screening or the MT scan and double marker test or NIPT. The second one is around the 5th month, that is the anomaly scan, which is done around between 18 to 19 weeks. And those will also be situations wherein we might have to do other things like doing certain blood tests, giving vaccines to the would-be mother, or giving her supplements in terms of folic acid, iron, and calcium. And again, For checking the baby's growth is okay, we need a visit around 28 weeks, that's the 7th month. These are all very important visits. Of course, as the due date is nearing at 36 weeks is another mandatory visit. These things apart, there are, because the number of physical visits to the doctor is limited, doesn't mean something may not go wrong in between. Healthcare professionals are accessible 24/7, as you all know, in the emergencies, and any sort of deviation from norm in health has to be reported to the doctor and not wait for the next scheduled visit to be done. And other than that, there are certain blood tests which are important, which of course a home collection of blood samples can be done, and reports can be shared with your doctor through email or video consultations. And apart from these mandatory visits, it is better to stay at home and not visit a healthcare facility unless there is a medical emergency for that. That apart, yes, there would be other additional things which we normally would be doing in terms of helping for labor and delivery, helping how to cope with labor. So there used to be sessions for lamas, and there used to be sessions with the physiotherapist for helping these things, and other common things which can happen, like getting backache in pregnancy, and having leg pain, leg cramps. So these things can be addressed again on video consultation with the physiotherapist, with the obstetric physiotherapist. So that's also possible. And few things which can also be done at home is where there is a minor illness. You can have a consultation, say if you're having some sort of a mild headache or a mild flu-like symptom. It's always better to have a video consultation so that your doctor can assess what your status is, and then in accordance with your symptoms and your other history, might ask you to come to the hospital physically. So if your doctor feels it's important for you to make a physical visit to the hospital, please take that seriously, because not everything can be done on teleconferencing or video conferencing.
So one of the other things that studies have consistently shown is pregnant women who get good pregnancy care have better outcomes in terms of regular, let us put it as the regular consultations with the doctor than physical visits, as well as the scans, the blood tests, as Dr. Prabha has already told you. And then there is a subgroup of pregnant women who cannot miss their antenatal care or the pregnancy visits. So these are women who are typically called a high-risk pregnancy, where they might be pregnant with the pre-existing problems like heart, kidney problems. They might be carrying twins, or there might be other special circumstances and medical needs. So for these pregnant women, if they follow the general safety precautions that they're supposed to follow in terms of, already we have discussed that in terms of your hand hygiene, taking care of things the way it is supposed to be done. And I think that's by now pretty much common knowledge, and even a child of 5 years would be able to recite it for you. So provided all those things are done, you can have a conversation with your doctor as to how to go ahead with your pregnancy care and the schedule as it should be, because these are women who are highly dependent on high quality medical care by multiple professionals so that they have a safe delivery and can take home their babies. So these are women who should not miss out on their visits, or because of an undue fear of something happening, if they stay at home, the risk that they would be taking would be much more than what a planned and coordinated visit to the hospital would be. So these subset of women are definitely more vulnerable than the rest of the women because of their pre-existing condition rather than what's happening because of COVID. So these women need to take particular care that whatever their doctor has given as a follow-up schedule, it has to be adhered to. And if there is any absence or a deviation from that schedule, you will need to have a conversation with your doctor to find out how best to get your regular care so that there is a healthier outcome for the mother as well as for the baby.
One more thing is keeping yourself physically fit when you stay at home. So it's since we deal with many women who are also working women, and with the existing situation, everybody or majority of people are working from home, and they tend to be sitting in awkward positions on the sofa or on the couch or in the bed, and working with their laptops and for long hours without taking any breaks. And these are women who will sort of have more problems with related to backache and having swelling in the legs and things like this. So it's important that you take frequent breaks, hydrate yourself well, take at least 2 to 3 liters of water with the summer around, and make sure you get up from your laptop every hour or so and walk for 5 to 10 minutes at least, so that your circulation is not impaired and you're physically fit through the day. Apart from, of course, what are the usual advice that women are given post meal to have at least a 15 to 20 minute walk.
So one of the other things that we have seen which have increased definitely, as Dr. Prabha said, is backache. The second thing which unfortunately we are seeing a lot more is urinary tract infections. And again, this is linked to, there is no set reminder because you're sitting at home and possibly forget to drink water because that's not high on your priority list. So what we suggest our women to do is 2 liters is a must. So fill up 2 1-liter bottles, keep it on your desk or on your dining table or wherever you can easily see it, and the goal should be that you should have finished it by the end of the day. So urinary tract infections can be particularly nasty in pregnancy. One, because they might not cause as many symptoms as otherwise. Anybody who has gone through a urinary tract infection knows how inconvenient it is to run to the loo every 5-10 minutes or half an hour, and how painful it is, and with fever and everything. But in pregnancy, those symptoms might not come up. And because those symptoms don't come up, it's usually diagnosed late in pregnancy. And urinary tract infection serious enough in pregnancy can lead to either a premature delivery or a miscarriage, depending on how severe it is and at what stage a woman gets it. So the simplest measure to do this is to make sure you take adequate amount of water and liquids basically. And also that you remember to get up and go and void on time and not sit for hours together in front. I know work can be absorbing, but then it's something which is important where you need to get up every 2 or 3 hours and make sure that you go to the loo and void urine. So that's one thing that all of the pregnant women, especially now, need to keep in mind, considering that everybody is only at home and it's not something which is again on a reminder in your mind that you have to do this.
To sort of time-bound ultrasound and visits, I would like to re-emphasize. I've already mentioned this earlier, but there is this first trimester screening, which is done around 12 weeks, and the anomaly scan, which needs to be done between 18 to 20 weeks. These two, I mean, all other tests are important, yes, but these two are the things which will categorize somebody, as Dr. Chitra was telling, to channelize as somebody is a high-risk pregnancy or a low-risk pregnancy. So if this window is missed, it becomes all the more problematic, becomes a problematic pregnancy, because we can't go back in time and redo those tests because they are time bound tests and limited by the weeks of gestation. So it's very important that if somebody who is listening to us right now is somewhere around the 3rd month or around the 5th month, please make a visit to your doctor.
Okay. And then the obvious question, and I think the crux of the whole webinar would come down to, how do we keep our pregnant women safe? Is there anything you can do, and is there something we can do as healthcare providers to try and mitigate the risk of infection, reduce it, or is there anything we can do at all? The answer is yes, there is something that we can do. There's something that you can do. So we'll start with the women. What can the women do to keep themselves safe? Whether they're pregnant or not, I think it holds equally well for everybody. But then, because pregnancy is categorized as especially vulnerable population, and here we don't mean only the pregnant women, people who have small children at home, the newborns. So it applies equally well to them also. One of the things obviously is, don't go out, try to keep yourself at home. Reduce the number of visitors you have, don't have unwanted visitors. And third thing is, now they have relaxed the curbs that were in place, but still it makes good sense not to do any unnecessary travel. And fourth thing is, if you can avoid something like going to even to a hospital, if you can do it over a video consultation, or you can send your reports, yes, you can do that. Possibly wherever it is possible and wherever feasible, try and use your own transport to reach wherever you want to reach, and not hugely depend on public transport, because multiple user surfaces, we know that it's very difficult to keep them clean and sanitized. And when you come to the hospital, there is something that the hospital would have done to try and ensure your safety. One of the first things is, of course, the thermal screening, which is universal, which happens everywhere to make sure you're not running a temperature. And the people who are actually running a temperature are kept separate. They are taken to a fever clinic. Second is you would be given a questionnaire to fill where you would be asked the common questions about recent travel, anybody come home, whether you have had a fever, and any contact with international travelers, where you go through that checklist to make sure that when you're entering into the hospital or your healthcare premises, you are deemed safe and not at risk for or suspected to have a COVID infection. And by and large, most of the healthcare facilities and hospitals, and they keep all the multiple user surfaces clean. They have different cleaning protocols where things are cleaned periodically. And we here try and keep our doors open so that you don't touch the door knobs. We try and minimize the number of contact surfaces that people have here. And also there is a different respiratory zone where anybody who has respiratory symptoms, whether they're suspected to be COVID or not, are isolated so that they don't come in contact with people who don't have any symptoms. And all scan machines and other surfaces like maybe the beds, the chairs, they're all cleaned with bleach periodically and whatever is the appropriate cleaning agent which can be used on those surfaces to keep things as safe as possible. The other thing that we do is restrict the number of visitors or the attendants that a pregnant woman can bring with her so that there is less number of women in the waiting area or in the common areas, and also restrict the number of inpatient visitors so that an unsuspected asymptomatic person does not walk in and possibly give infection to the mother or the baby. The other thing we do in the hospital is that we allot a specific staff to look after a specific patient so that that woman or the nurse or they take care of only that particular woman and child or a couple of them at a go so that the multiple interactions between different people is minimized. So these are some of the things that we do to try and keep you safe. And the other thing is testing whenever it is appropriate. So anybody who is suspected or comes from a high risk area or a containment zone is offered testing so that we know that things are all right. And this is in line with ICMR guidelines where pregnant women who are nearing their delivery date can be tested even if they're not symptomatic. Of course, we do not deny care or refuse to see women who are in labor, whether they're symptomatic, non-symptomatic, or they come from containment zones or anywhere. It's just that if there is a suspicion or a possibility, then we do take special precautions, keep them in isolation, and anybody who comes into contact with her or the baby uses a full PPE to minimize the possible risk of spreading infection to others.
There's a question about is it safe to take drugs for COVID-19 in pregnancy? Does it harm the baby? Well, there's no specified treatment as such which is given for all COVID test positive. It's not needed because, like Dr. Chitra put it across earlier, most people would catch infection and it just goes away like a cold without anybody needing any medicine. But if there is a need to treat COVID because of the symptoms, which could be serious respiratory infections, then that the not treating it is more harmful for the mother and the baby compared to whatever the side effects of potential side effects of the medication that is used. Of course, any medication that is prescribed in pregnancy, COVID or otherwise, is jointly agreed upon by a multidisciplinary team which involves respiratory physicians, the ICU physicians, the obstetrician gynecologists concerned. So it is a team which will be looking after women like this, and whatever is thought to be best and safe for the mother and baby, that would be prescribed. We would be able to take any questions if the audience have any. Somebody has put in, can you please provide ICMR Mohana Gangula has put in a request whether we can provide ICMR guidelines for pregnant women in PDF. It is available as PDF format in the net, freely available on ICMR website. Ankita Agarwal has a question as to how safe it is to travel by flight in this situation. To the best of my knowledge, the flights aren't yet functional, and when they do resume, we need to consider, you need to check with your gynecologist as to, depending on your risk factor in terms of how many weeks of pregnancy you are you okay to travel, or any other contraindications which your doctor might think where you could not travel. But as Dr. Chitra put it across, with all the prevailing situations, it might be wise to just stay where you are, unless your medical requirement is such that you need to travel to another place.
Ms. Sheila Mohana is asking us how to take care of gastric problems in pregnancy and low blood pressure. The answer to gastric problems would be eat right, small frequent meals every 2 to 3 hours, having your dinner by around 8 o'clock and having a small meal like a portion of a fruit or half a glass of milk before you go to bed, avoiding spicy food and any food which comes out of a packet, basically junk food, and drinking plenty of water. So if you eat on time and have a bit of physical activity like walking around for at least 30 minutes a day, gastritis can usually be kept at bay. And if your gastritis is not resolving with simple changes in your diet and physical activity, do contact your doctor. Depending on your background, they'll be able to suggest medicines which are suitable for you. As far as low blood pressure is concerned, this is something that we do hear often about women having low blood pressure in pregnancy. That is a protective mechanism, and that's how it is usually in pregnancy. Women do tend to lower their blood pressure in pregnancy because this helps more blood to give more blood supply to the baby and helps the baby grow. So normally women do have lower blood pressure in pregnancy and usually don't have any symptoms because of it. But if somebody is feeling excessively tired or giddy because of it, I would advise increase your water intake, and that should sort it out for you. If somebody is feeling really giddy, they can put their feet up and not sit in the same posture for a long while, move around every hour or so, and that will help you to manage it well.
Yeah, Nimishika has a question. Just to clarify, any newborns who have been tested positive so far were exposed to the virus only after birth. Is that right? There are documentation of the baby being positive immediately after birth, which is unlikely that they would have contacted from outside. There is a certain antibody called IgM, which does not develop in a newborn unless it has got transferred from the mother to the baby inside the womb itself. So those have been documented, though the numbers are very less to make it as a possibility. Shamshad Sheikh has a question. How safe is it to go for a walk outside, or any suggestions how to perform walk and exercise? Well, if you're staying in a society which has an open area for walk, now societies are allowing women, people to walk in their premises, but with conditions. You have to follow local guidelines, whatever I'm sure societies are giving guidelines within their community. Wear mask and keep distance from people. Don't go in teams. Don't go walking with other people. You walk alone, or maybe with your husband. What to do for sleep troubles and sleep anxiety during pregnancy? I'm in the beginning of sixth month. Well, being sleepless is, this is from Rajeshwari Manu. Rajeshwari, I can vouch for it and tell, yes, once you're pregnant and you're going to be a mother, you have to forget your sleep. That's going to be for eternity, because it's never, your baby is never going to give you sleep all your life. That thing apart, well, there's nothing to be anxious about it. Yes, this is an evolving situation as we put forward. And if the anxiety is because of the COVID situation around, I'm sure with what you have heard from Dr. Chitra and myself now, you would be assured that you don't have to panic about that. But yes, we do see a lot of women who are having anxiety about health-related issues, which are fairly sort of unknown health-related issues. And if it is something which is ongoing and you're unable to cope with it, do talk to your doctor. They'll be able to counsel you regarding that, and if necessary, put you in touch with a qualified professional who can help you out to relieve your anxiety.
Okay, we have a question from Ms. Karima, which says, post-lockdown, can we resume working from office while taking precautions, or should you avoid it? So the answer to this question is, if you can work from home, that's your safest environment, because that's your house and you know how well you have kept it and what precautions you are taking. So if you have the option of working from home, that's the best thing. Right now, your home is your sanctuary, and that's where you should be. But if you have an unavoidable work where you have to go to office, then I'm sure that most of the offices nowadays are taking extra precautions. And as I understand it, the full workforce will not be there. It's going to be a limited number of people. Try and avoid touching common use surfaces. If your office has provided you with a solution to clean your keyboard, ensure that your keyboards are clean, the computer surfaces are clean, and your tables are clean. If the general safety precautions are adhered to, it should not be an issue going and working from office if it's absolutely necessary for you. But if it's possible for you to work from home, I think that's the best thing that you could do, especially if you're pregnant. So here's an interesting question, and I think one which is on top of everybody's mind. Is it safe to visit a hospital where a COVID-19 affected pregnant woman, where COVID-19 affected pregnant women are treated? And what precautionary measures should be taken when a pregnant woman visits her gynecologist? So I think we have covered a bit of this. So whether it's a pregnant woman, a man or a child or whoever it is, if they're suspected to have COVID because of their symptoms, as I told you, they don't come into the hospital. They are taken into a separate fever clinic where the doctor who is sitting there categorizes them into a possible suspect or not a COVID suspect. So that is the basic thing which is done in most of the hospitals, to my understanding. Now, coming to the question of where COVID-19 pregnant women are treated. Now, if a COVID-19 pregnant woman comes to any hospital in labor, we don't deny care. And as I have already told you, I think a few minutes ago, that we do have a separate zone and isolation, and she would not be kept in the ward or area with other pregnant women or their children. However, if we do recognize that it's a COVID-19 positive pregnant woman who is not in labor or in very early part of labor, to the best of my understanding, if it's not an emergency, we'll have to refer her on to government designated COVID-19 hospitals. To answer your question in a very simple way, yes, it is safe for most parts because the hospital do take the precautions to keep people isolated and the rest of the people who are non-suspect safe. And precautions to take while visiting your gynecologist: if it's non-emergency situation, try to have a video consultation. And if you're pregnant, and as Dr. Prabha has already told you, the important points in pregnancy where you're supposed to go and meet your gynecologist, like the 3rd month, 5th month, 9th month visit, take only one attender along with you, either your mom or your husband. Use a mask, don't touch multiple surfaces, and keep your visit as short as possible. And the other thing that I would have to tell you here is this, though it might sound a little funny, is that once you finish your visit, go home. Don't sit and linger in the coffee shop or the canteen in the hospital. I'm not telling you that you're going to get COVID-19 from there, but that's how you minimize the risk, by not lingering on unnecessarily in either a healthcare setup or otherwise also. We have one question from Ms. Preeta. Thyroid problem, delivery will be normal or C-section? So your thyroid does not impact the way you deliver. It is dependent on how your pregnancy progresses, the position of the baby, and your health condition at the time of delivery. So whether you deliver normally or C-section, it's independent of your thyroid condition. That would just be basically based on how your pregnancy has progressed and how your health is at the end of pregnancy, how your baby is doing at the end of pregnancy near your due date, and what your doctor says is the right way for you to deliver. You can have an open discussion with your gynecologist regarding that, and I'm sure they'll be able to clarify it for you.
Continuing from where Dr. Chitra said earlier before this question about hospitals' preparedness to deal with COVID pregnancies. Yes, there are designated, government designated COVID hospitals, which are the place where known COVID patients, or once they are tested positive, they are meant to be referred there. But as Dr. Chitra put it across, if of course somebody comes in labor, even whether there is a suspect or otherwise, care has to be provided by whichever hospital the lady presents to. And to talk of our own organization, there are designated COVID OTs, which are completely separated from the rest of the OTs. There are designated labor rooms with negative pressure. A lot of engineering changes have been done by organizations, including ours, wherein there is total segregation of women who could be suspect with the rest of the people. And designated staff, as Dr. Chitra mentioned earlier, who would be running in shifts wherein they don't come into contact, because as healthcare professionals, you all understand that we are also at risk of contacting disease from you. That's why you would have seen all these status updates from your doctors and healthcare professionals where we have told repeatedly, stay at home, we are working for you. That's very important that you don't infect healthcare professionals too. And yes, it's our duty to see that we don't infect you. So it's important that we take suitable precautions, which I'm sure all healthcare professionals are taking. And the organizations are also taking responsibility to see that they make suitable changes in their infrastructure. It has all come so much of a sudden, and people have taken really time off and worked overtime to make all these changes in organizations like ours. And we can assure that, including minor details like that the air conditioning does not mix with the air conditioning in the next room where there could be a possible suspect. So all these changes have been looked into in our organization.
Okay, we have another question. If you have had a first delivery as a C-section, can your second be normal? Is it safe to go for normal delivery? This is a question by Ms. Shruti Kejriwal. So to answer your question, Shruti, there is no straightforward answer to this, because your first delivery is a C-section. There is a lot of technical discussion which goes on. So we do it as a one-on-one with the mom who desires to try for a normal delivery after a previous cesarean. But there is a kind of dictum which goes that a second C-section would be safer for the baby, while a vaginal delivery would be safer for the mother. So it's not a win-win situation, neither is it a lose-lose situation. It's just that it's a situation where an individualized plan will have to be made. And one thing that you'll have to remember is, if you are attempting to have a normal delivery and your doctor tells you that you're seemingly fit to have a possible normal delivery after a previous cesarean, you will have to attempt it only in a place where 24-hour OT, anesthetists, and pediatricians are available, so that you have a safe delivery, whichever way you choose to deliver.
Garima has a question. Is it okay to order food online, as I do have craving for burger and pizza? Home food becomes too boring at times. Once in a while, is it okay? On which needs to be avoided.
Can I add here as a lighter vein, Garima, when you are ordering, please order for us also. We are craving too.
Well, there's no yes or no answer to this, because I'm sure all of us have seen posts on WhatsApp where a so-called food delivery chain person delivering food was found to be a COVID carrier, and all the scare that comes along with that. Well, cravings are part of life, isn't it? Safety comes first. So I think it's always better at this point of time. If you're pregnant, please don't risk yourself. I cannot answer an yes or no to that.
So I think there are a few wrap it up kind of take home pointers. I think the first and the foremost thing is keep yourself safe. There is nothing more important than safety of mother, the unborn baby, or the newborn baby. Second thing is, as I have already told, your home is your sanctuary. That is your safest zone. There are no two questions about it. Non-essential travel is a big no-no. So long the place that you are in has good medical facilities in terms of managing an emergency delivery, you are safe there. It's okay if it's not your native, it's okay if it's not your favorite doctor, it's okay if that's not what you had planned. Of course, the world had not planned for this, it happened. So safety first. Our generation, why anybody, I think, who is alive now at this point in time has never seen a global crisis of this proportion. So we are unprepared. We have been, I think all of us have been used to getting all our whims and fancies in the general sense pandered to, and this is something which is putting a brake on everything, but we just have to rally around. We don't have a choice at this point, and our only goal, one and the only goal, is safety. There's nothing which is more important. There's nothing which takes a precedence over safety. It would be kind of senseless to do anything which would jeopardize anybody's safety at this point in time. Stay at home, stay safe, only essential travel, only visits to your doctor when needed. Reach out via video conferences or consultations, emails, or whatever your doctor is comfortable communicating with you, whichever means that is for you, that one.
Thank you all for a patient
Thank you.
hearing. Yeah, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great day. Bye.